There was a time when men built nations with their hands, when pain was a teacher, not an excuse. In 1910, men woke before sunrise, worked till their bones ached, and never complained because survival didn't care about comfort. But today, comfort is the new killer. Discipline has been replaced by distraction, strength by softness. But deep inside, that same fire still burns, waiting for the man who chooses to rise again. The question is, will you? Back then, being a man wasn't something you talked about. It was something you proved. In 1910, there were no motivational videos, no podcasts, no how to be strong guides. You learned by doing. You learned by failing. Men faced the cold, the hunger, the long days that broke most souls, and they didn't quit. Because quitting wasn't an option. Every sunrise was a battle. Every breath was earned. They built homes from the ground up, worked the land with cracked hands, carried a sense of duty that ran deeper than comfort. They didn't chase happiness. They chased purpose. They didn't need validation. They needed results. And while their bodies grew tired, their spirits hardened into something unbreakable. But today, men are lost. We've traded purpose for pleasure. We've replaced grind with scrolling. We've become addicted to ease and allergic to effort. We speak of masculinity like it's outdated, when in truth, it's never been more necessary. See, strength doesn't go out of style. Responsibility doesn't expire. The world still needs men who show up, who fight through the storm, who protect, who build, who lead. The question isn't what happened to men. The question is, when did we stop demanding more from ourselves? Because the world didn't get easier. We just got softer. And it's time to remember what our grandfathers knew, that the measure of a man isn't found in comfort. It's found in struggle. When you look back at men from 1910, you don't just see people, you see pillars. They weren't perfect, but they stood for something. They believed in sacrifice and honor, in building something that would outlast them. And the crazy part? Most of them didn't even talk about it. They just did it. A man's word meant everything. His handshake was his contract. If he said he'd be there, he was. Rain, snow, pain, none of that mattered. Because men back then understood one simple truth. No one was coming to save them. There were no safety nets, no government programs, no handouts. You wanted to feed your family? You worked. You wanted respect? You earned it. You wanted peace? You built it with your own two hands. And now, more than a century later, we've got more comfort, more technology, more opportunity than ever yet. Somehow fewer men. Not fewer in number. Fewer in spirit. Because comfort has done what war never could. It's made us weak. Today, most men are raised without challenge. They're told to play it safe, to avoid risk, to fit in. They're handed everything but responsibility. And when life hits, and it always hits, they break. Because they were never forced to be strong. See, in 1910, pain was part of the process. Now, pain is seen as punishment. Back then, men took pride in providing. Now, they're told that being a provider is toxic. The roles that built civilizations are now mocked. The values that forged families are now dismissed. But listen to me. Masculinity is not the problem. Weakness is because weak men don't build, they consume. They don't protect, they hide. They don't lead, they follow. And every time a generation of men chooses comfort over challenge, the world grows a little darker. You think being strong is outdated? Tell that to the man who has to defend his home when no one else will. You think leadership is toxic? Tell that to the family looking for direction in chaos. You think discipline is old-fashioned? Then look around. Look at the world falling apart because no one wants to take responsibility anymore. Men of 1910 didn't need perfect circumstances. They didn't need validation or permission. They became men through adversity. Every hardship forged them. Every obstacle taught them. Every failure refined them. And here's the truth. That same fire still exists inside every man today. It's buried under distractions, under comfort, under lies that say, you're fine as you are. No, you're not fine if you're not growing. You're not fine if you've stopped pushing. You're not fine if you've forgotten what it means to carry weight, because men were never meant to live soft. We were built to endure, to protect, to create, to rise. And when you return to that truth, when you stop running from difficulty, that's when life changes. That's when purpose returns. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly tested yourself? When was the last time you did something that scared you, that stretched you, that hurt? Because comfort won't make you a man. Responsibility will. Discipline will. Courage will. The men of 1910 didn't have much, but they had themselves. And maybe that's exactly what we've lost. Maybe the real war isn't fought with weapons anymore. Maybe it's fought inside every man who's trying to remember what it means to be one. You see, the battle isn't out there anymore. It's in here. Inside every man, it's not about fighting wars on the battlefield. It's about fighting the war within your own mind. The war against laziness, against doubt, against comfort, because comfort is the silent killer of potential. Men in 1910 didn't have time to overthink. They acted. They didn't debate discipline. They lived it. They didn't talk about being strong. They had to be strong. Every day demanded it. But now, we have the luxury to choose weakness, to waste hours chasing temporary pleasure, to avoid the grind that builds character. And that's why so many men feel empty. Because deep down, we're built for struggle. We're designed for purpose. When life becomes too easy, our souls begin to rot. You don't grow in comfort, you decay in it. Every man who's ever achieved something great had to go through pain, had to walk through failure, had to bleed for what he wanted. That's the test. That's the fire. And that's what's missing. So maybe it's time to go back. Not to 1910, but to the spirit of 1910. To that mindset where excuses didn't exist. Where strength was expected, where discipline wasn't something to be admired, it was required. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop looking for someone to save you. Start doing what men before you did. Take ownership. Face the storm. Build something that matters, because you're not just living for yourself. You're carrying the weight of every generation before you. They built the world you stand on. Now it's your turn to build what comes next. The question is, will the men of the future look back at you the way we look back at them? This is the moment you decide who you are. Not your past, not your comfort, not your excuses you. You decide if you'll be another man lost in distraction or the one who stands up and takes control. Because the world doesn't need more talkers. It needs builders. It needs protectors. It needs men who will do what's right, even when no one's watching. The truth is, you already have what they had in 1910. The same blood, the same fire, the same potential. You just have to choose to use it. And it starts with one decision. No more easy days. No more blaming the world. No more waiting for someone else to fix it. You become dangerous when you stop needing motivation and start living with purpose. When you do the hard things every single day, not for praise, not for validation, but because that's who you are. That's what being a man means. You want respect? Earn it. You want strength? Build it. You want peace? Fight for it. You want purpose? Sacrifice for it. The men before us didn't have it easier. They just refused to quit. They were forged in fire, and so can you. Because the fire that made them still burns in you. It's not gone. It's just waiting for you to wake it up. So wake up. Get up and get to work. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Because one day, the world will look back on this generation and ask, where were the men who stood tall when everything was falling apart? Make sure they say your name. Make sure they remember you as the one who brought the spirit of 1910.
Heck, the man who refused to surrender?
Every generation reaches a breaking point. A moment where men must decide if they'll keep hiding behind comfort or rise to reclaim their purpose. And this is ours. You don't need to go back in time to find strength. You just need to remember who you are. A man is not defined by what he owns, but by what he endures. by what he builds, by what he refuses to give up on. So stop waiting for life to hand you meaning. Start creating it. Show up when you don't feel like it. Work when no one's watching. Train your body. Sharpen your mind. Guard your soul. Because the men of the past didn't have it easier. They just accepted the responsibility that came with being alive. And that's what the world needs again. Men who hold the line. Men who live with discipline, with courage, with integrity. Men who don't run from pressure. They thrive under it. Because when you choose discipline over comfort, purpose over pleasure, growth over excuses, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of man the world remembers. So stand up. Fix your posture. Face the storm head on. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. But don't you dare fold. Because when the noise fades and the lights go out, the only thing that will matter is whether you lived like the men who came before you, the ones who built. Who sacrificed? Who endured? Be that man. Be the one your sons will thank. Be the reason the world still believes in strong men.